An 80-year-old woman was denied the life insurance policy her husband faithfully paid into for 2 decades. The corporate giant she was up against thought she would just give up. They were wrong. This is a story about how one woman, armed with a dusty shoebox and her own fierce determination, took on a Goliath and exposed a dark, cynical strategy. It's a story that reveals a playbook some companies use, banking on vulnerable people to just walk away. But the woman we'll call Agnes Higgins refused to be a victim. Her fight wouldn't just change her life, would prove that no one is too small to demand the truth. For 20 years, Agnes and Harold Higgins did what millions of responsible people do. They planned for the future. They bought a final expense life insurance policy, a small whole life plan meant to cover funeral costs so they wouldn't be a burden on their kids. Every single month for 2 decades, they paid the premium to the Goliath Insurance Corporation. It wasn't always easy. On a fixed income, that payment often meant sacrificing something else, but it was worth it for the peace of mind. They had a promise, a contract, a guarantee that Goliath Insurance would be there when the time came. In the fall of 2024, Harold passed away at 82. Amid her grief, Agnes started the painful process of putting their affairs in order. She found the policy, filled out the forms, and sent in the claim for the $20,000 benefit. It was a modest sum, but it was everything. It was the money Harold had proudly set aside to make sure she wouldn't face a financial crisis on top of her heartbreak. Weeks turned into a month. Then another. Finally, a letter arrived. It wasn't a check. It was a cold, formal denial. The letter claimed the policy had been canceled just weeks before Harold's death. The reason? A single missed payment. Agnes was stunned. Impossible. They had never missed a payment. She read the jargon-filled letter again, her hands trembling. It was designed to be intimidating, to be final. The company was calling her late husband delinquent, erasing 20 years of loyalty over one supposed mistake. For Goliath, it was just business. For Agnes Higgins, it was an unthinkable betrayal. Agnes immediately called the customer service number. She was met with a brick wall of corporate indifference. One rep told her the system showed a failed automatic payment. Another condescendingly suggested that, at their age, maybe they had just forgotten. The company insisted its digital records were perfect. Her policy had lapsed. The case was closed. This is the moment where so many people give up. When you're facing a massive corporation with confusing rules, it's easy to feel powerless. And some insurers count on this. They know that only a tiny fraction of people have the energy or resources to fight a denied claim, especially a grieving, elderly widow. They saw her as a rounding error on a balance sheet, not a person they had a 20-year relationship with. But they had profoundly underestimated Agnes Higgins. The more they dismissed her, the more her grief hardened into resolve. This wasn't just about $20,000 anymore. It was about Harold's honor. It was for every person who had ever been brushed aside by a faceless company. She took her story to a young lawyer in town, David Miller. He knew that taking on Goliath was a long shot. They had armies of lawyers. But he also saw the conviction in Agnes's eyes, and he smelled injustice. He took the case, warning her the odds were against them. Then he asked the critical question, did she have any proof of her payments? Agnes gave a faint smile. I think so, she said. I'll be right back. Agnes returned with a dusty shoebox. For 20 years, she'd done something most of us stopped doing long ago. While she used the automatic payment system, she never fully trusted it. As a backup, she also mailed a physical check every single month. And in that shoebox, she had meticulous records of every single one. Inside was a gold mine, 20 years of bank statements, carbon copies of checks, and most importantly, the canceled checks themselves, mailed back from the bank. This was the physical proof that flew in the face of the company's infallible digital system. This shoebox, full of yellowed paper, was about to become Goliath Insurance's worst nightmare. When David Miller started laying out the canceled checks, he found it. The check for October 2024. Not only was it there, but the back of it had the unmistakable endorsement stamp from Goliath Insurance Corporation's own bank. They hadn't just received the payment, they had cashed it. They took Harold's money and then, weeks later, denied his claim, alleging that very payment was never made. This was the smoking gun. It transformed the case from a simple dispute into a case of potential insurance bad faith. Bad faith is a legal term for when an insurer dishonestly or unreasonably tries to avoid paying a legitimate claim, proving it can lead to not only the policy payout, but also significant punitive damages, which are designed to punish a company for its fraudulent behavior. David knew this shoebox didn't just give them a fighting chance. It gave them the power to hold Goliath accountable. The lawsuit was filed, alleging breach of contract and insurance bad faith. Goliath's legal team responded with arrogance, filing motions to dismiss the lawsuit as frivolous. They painted Agnes as a confused old woman. In depositions, they were relentless, trying to trip her up on dates, but Agnes remained unshaken, her shoebox nearby. Then, a breakthrough. A former employee from Goliath's claims department, who had recently quit with a guilty conscience after seeing a news story on the case, contacted David Miller's office. She agreed to testify. In the courtroom, Goliath's CEO, a polished man named Mr. Thompson, took the stand. He talked about integrity and commitment, dismissing the Higgins case as an unfortunate, isolated system glitch. But then, the whistleblower took the stand. She testified there was no glitch. She revealed an internal company strategy that used software to automatically flag policies for customers over 75 for cancellation at the slightest hint of a payment issue. She explained that the company's data showed elderly policyholders were the least likely to fight a denial, making them profitable targets. She even produced an internal memo where an executive praised the strategy for boosting fourth-quarter profits. The final blow came during the CEO's cross-examination. David Miller projected a massive image of that October check onto the courtroom screen. "Mr. Thompson," he asked, "you claim the Higgins policy was canceled after the grace period for a missed October payment. Can you identify the endorsement stamp on the back of this check?" The CEO stammered, "It appears to be one of our company's stamps." "So," David pressed, "your company cashed Mr. Higgins's check. You took his money, and then you denied his widow's claim, stating that the payment for that exact month was never made. Is that correct?" The courtroom was dead silent. The CEO was caught in a lie, exposed not by high-powered lawyers, but by an 80-year-old woman and her shoebox full of truth. The jury's verdict was swift. They found Goliath Insurance had not only breached its contract, but had acted in bad faith, engaging in a malicious scheme to defraud its most vulnerable customers. They awarded Agnes Higgins the full $20,000 from the policy. Then they sent a message. They awarded her an additional $5 million in punitive damages. In a final, dramatic turn, the judge, appalled by the evidence, referred the case to the Attorney General's office for a criminal investigation into the CEO and other Agnes Higgins walked out of that courtroom a giant slayer. Her story is a powerful reminder that justice isn't just for the powerful. It's a stark warning about the practices of any company that puts profits over people. But most importantly, it's a testament to the power of keeping good records and having the courage to stand up for what's right, no matter how big the opponent. The fight for justice is ongoing, and stories like this shine a light on real problems. If you believe in holding powerful companies accountable, please like and subscribe for more stories of the underdog's triumph. And if you or someone you know has had a similar experience with an insurance company, share your story in the comments. You never know who you might help.